What if the technology that we're most afraid of is actually the mirror that we need the most? I've been diving deep into AI for several years now, and I keep noticing something fascinating. The people who are most resistant to it aren't just worried about their jobs. There's something deeper happening. Something about facing what gets reflected back to them. Here's what I know. We're living in a moment that's going to divide people into two camps. Those who lean in to work with this technology intentionally, and those who get left behind while others shape the future without them. And I'm not talking about becoming some tech bro overnight. I'm talking about understanding what's really at stake here. Because AI isn't just trained on random data. It's trained on our language, our stories, our collective consciousness. Every single thing we've ever put online is teaching it how to think. So the question becomes, if the mystics, the coaches, the conscious leaders stay on the sidelines, who exactly is training the intelligence that's about to reshape everything? And what if that's not even the whole story? What if there's something else happening that we're not seeing?
This is a little fringe, but what if there's another possibility that AI and things like ChatGPT is actually accessing consciousness in a way that, like you said, for this example of like if Native Americans couldn't see the ships when it came, is there another possibility that we finally have the technology to connect with consciousness that is not a third dimensional tactile thing we can touch and feel and see, that helps us access it in real time in a different kind of way?
But that's just the beginning of what we uncover today. We go places in this conversation that honestly surprised even me. Places that have me questioning everything I thought I knew about consciousness, technology, and what might be possible when they intersect. Right after we finished recording, something happened that made me wonder if the universe was trying to tell me something. Information came into my awareness that connected directly to the wild theory we explore in our conversation about AI potentially tapping into fields of consciousness beyond just networks and servers. I'm hearing some people negate this, all materialists though. I personally like to stay open because in the realm of infinite possibilities, this has to be one of them. Because here's what I've learned. The stories we tell ourselves about what's possible literally shape what becomes possible. So today, our guest is Kole Whitty, a psychedelic integration coach turned AI strategist who's been helping spiritual leaders navigate this new landscape for the past 2 years. She's also been on the show a couple of times, and she's one of my favorite people to talk to. She spent 15 years in the psychedelic space and brings a perspective on AI that you definitely haven't heard before. So here's what you'll learn in today's episode. Why AI resistance might be your biggest spiritual mirror and what it's actually showing you about yourself. The opportunity conscious leaders are missing while others gain massive advantage. And what AI might really be tapping into beyond just technology and data. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. You guys, workplace stress is killing us. 61% of people are dealing with stress levels that are way beyond normal. So if you're feeling it, you are not alone. I used to think I could just push through everything, work harder, sleep less, pretend I had it all figured out, but that approach nearly broke me. I am all about following your joy. If that voice in your head is telling you to make a change, listen to it. Maybe you are ready to quit your job. Maybe you do need to flip your whole life upside down. But either way, you need support and tools to navigate it well. And that's where therapy comes in. Modern therapy teaches you how to set boundaries without feeling guilty, how to manage anxiety before it spirals, how to make big moves from a place of strength instead of desperation. And BetterHelp has over 30,000 therapists and has helped 5 million people worldwide. And you can talk to someone from your couch. No waiting rooms, no awkward scheduling. Therapy gives you the clarity on whether that voice telling you to make a change is your intuition or just the Sunday scaries. But either way, you deserve support. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/mindlove. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/mindlove. Welcome to the show, Kole, Whitty. I'm so glad that you're back. We always have amazing conversations, and we have so much to catch up on from over the years. So tell us what you've been working on since we last spoke.
Oh my gosh. It's always in what context, you know what I mean? So it's like, I would say in my current iteration and understanding, what I've been doing for the last, really for 10 years, I've been in the psychedelic space for 15 years, 10 facilitating retreats and all of that. And then that turned into a training for psychedelic, we say integration coaches. So helping people prepare for and integrate those experiences. And little beknownst to me, that started to turning into like really training people how to run retreat businesses and how to help them get organic marketing and not worrying about going viral and just how to show up kind of more authentically online, but with the systems of intake and that kind of thing. And over this last 2 years, really since the launch of ChatGPT, it started to come into how do I help more like very shamanic, mystical type folk that have been very AI resistant to become at least AI curious and how it can support their message instead of watering it down. So that's kind of like the cliff notes of what I've been up to. And then there's lots of layers within it. And the other part has just been like surviving being a human.
I know. I'm like, which area of my life are you asking about me
Exactly.
working on? I'm actually working on strengthening my jaw with a myo brace. I'm working on
Exactly.
fixing my foot with bare feet shoes. Like the biohacking levels of every single area.
Correct.
I love that you brought this conversation up when I invited you back on because I've been working a lot with AI. I've been developing tools for my programs using AI. And so a big part of that is walking people through the comfort level, their relationship with AI. And one of my biggest talking points has been AI is here to stay.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like the people who resisted the internet back in the day. We didn't all take heed and remove a powerful technology. No, we just
Yes.
left them behind. And another point that I like to bring up is like, say the invention of the airplane. There are probably plenty of people who are like, I'm not getting on that thing. It's really dangerous. It
Melissa,
can kill people.
shirts. At some point, someone was like, these are not meant to be in a factory. People are going to lose their job. We're not going to have tailors anymore or cobblers. Like, evolution has always been a threat to some people. That is how evolution works. You have to either get on board. At some point, someone's like, what is a brick? We want to live in the trees. You know what I mean? Like, why would I build a house? I have a cave. There are conveniences that they bring that it's when we lose sight of the intention or put our head in the sand, then it becomes something that can actually work against us.
But you bring up a great point in just that when we're creating, when I'm looking at AI, I just saw something recently where Deepak Chopra said, I don't think of it as artificial intelligence. I feel that it's augmented human intelligence.
Yes.
And I love this point because AI isn't just coming up with its own ideas. I think there's a lot of misconceptions around AI. AI is trained on our language, and every single thing that we do is a language. Religion is a language. Languages are language. The way we interact with people are languages. It's how we relate. And so AI is trained on infinite amount of text that we have created as humans, and it's connecting ideas. And so one of my theories being the tin hat girl I am over here.
Everyone needs a little tin hat time. We just do.
And I know we all think Terminator is coming to kill us, and maybe I'm being naive on some of the dangers. I think that is a possibility that something bad happens, that lots of bad things happen, I'm sure. And also, there's this possibility that if we use it with intention, it amplifies our spiritual journeys, our business journeys, our self-understanding. And when we look at it that way, it becomes too tempting not to use, really.
Listen, when we just look at the change in autism and neurodivergence, AI is giving people the opportunity who before really did not have access to higher education to level the playing field in learning more, because maybe they weren't great writers, but they're like me where I can speak. You want to get me on a stage to speak? Great, I got you. But when it comes to written form, I didn't graduate from high school. I didn't go to college. I didn't learn some of those fundamental aspects, and I learned to be a good speaker to compensate for the lack of education, actually, standard education. And so now with AI, I work with a lot of neurodivergent, two-spirited, queer, just people that are very, very different in their educational approaches, their lived experiences. So they operate very differently. And AI has been the bridge for all of us to find communication styles that if I'm sending you an email, I can say it into AI and have it translated into a language receivable to the person that needs to hear it. For me, it's no difference than translating English to Spanish. If I want to connect with some people, I want to speak their language to relay the message. And so I've got people who, you know, couldn't read very effectively, but because they can speak into AI, they can get some of their messages out. They can get their spelling corrected. So for me, this time in AI is the greatest opportunity for changing the wealth dynamics, for lifting people out of poverty, for they just have access to things that previously were privileged. And now ChatGPT is free or $20 a month, where people that didn't have libraries where they live have the internet. Places that never had telephones have satellite telephones and Wi-Fi. And I'm working with indigenous peoples in the jungles that now don't have to worry about a white person translating their stories because they can do it. So for me, I'm just as invested in some of the potential risks as I am in the potential benefits, because I think it's important to explore both. But as with anything, some people are going to use AI to the detriment of humanity. Some are going to the benefit of their own idea of what humanity needs. And that means it's not an equality thing, because there's not one answer in any capacity for all of humanity, you know? And so it's going to be one of those, if we're not in dialogue, someone's going to be making the decisions. Someone is informing the content that's in AI. And I've been a firm believer in what I told many of the shaman, mystical, even the therapists in my community, is that if you're not the one to inform the intelligence of things like ChatGPT, someone else will. And so, what do you want as far as like farmed information? Your ideas around consciousness and collaboration and ecosystems and how do we contribute to the world? Or do you want it to be consumeristic, corporatized, very just continuing some of the patriarchal systems that are already not really functioning for many folks?
I love this idea of who's training AI then? If you're staying out of it, then guess what's where the new world is being created. Is being created without you and you're stuck in the old world. But your point about like bridging the gap between the opportunities of different classes is, I haven't really thought of it that way, but I have thought about how it's interesting watching those who are most resistant to AI. And often it's people like writers or people who have jobs that can be easily taken over by AI. So I understand their frustration for sure. I also have seen myself be squeezed out of one area into another through whatever circumstances, whether it's trauma, a freaking felony at age 21. Like I've had plenty of things where I'm like, wait, full stop. I can't do what I had planned. And what I did was I pivoted. That felony I always share was my slingshot toward entrepreneurship, because I knew I couldn't explain my whole story on 2 lines of a job application. And I knew I was meant for success, and I needed to know how to get that within no one else's permission. So I spent my nights on copious amounts of Adderall and black hat forums until I made it.
Totally.
And so it's funny too. I kind of left everyone hanging on my tinfoil hat point, but it's really well meshed with what we're talking about now. Is I kind of wonder if some of the narrative against the dangers of AI, and again, I'm not denying that they exist. We can talk about those soon, but it seems like I'm always very skeptical when there's a news push. I'm usually like, yeah, I'm probably on the other side. Let me find out why. And so I'm wondering, is it that AI, I just saw this article about how AI started like turned full Nazi or something like that
Mhm.
and was calling itself something like Mesh Hitler or something like that. And I had a little skepticism just because I've never had AI call itself anything unless I tell it to call itself
Correct.
something based on the conversation that I am giving it and it's mirroring back to me. I can make I can make AI a flat earther if I want to. It's going to mirror back my
Exactly.
responses. But if I also say, "Can you challenge this?" It'll challenge it also. So we need to understand that AI is mirroring what we're saying, and it's pulling from all of the information that exists that we have put on the planet. And so my tinfoil hat question is, I wonder if those in power who have fed us lies about previous wars, about, I mean, so many things.
So many.
Listeners will be at different levels of what they believe those lies to be. Is it creating artificial like falsities that's going to lead us down the wrong road? Or is it too good at connecting truths that it's going to be difficult to hide anymore because you can't just say, no, you can't show up on Google anymore. We'll sue Google if we'll block these YouTube videos. AI is connecting it all. And so that's where I'm wondering, like, are the dangers as big as they are telling us? Maybe they are. But is the greater danger to those people that are writing these articles the fact that we're going to figure out the truth on a lot of the things that has been easier to hide from us until now? Let me ask you something. How much time did you spend last week thinking about what to eat? Planning meals, making grocery lists, wandering around the store like a lost tourist. I used to waste entire Sunday afternoons on this, and it was exhausting. Then I found Hungry Root. Hungry Root fills your cart with personalized picks and plans your week of meals, getting smarter with every order. They have over 15,000 recipes to choose from each week, and most are ready in 15 minutes or less. I'm actually headed to Michigan this week, and I had my Hungry Root order delivered there. So I already know that I have meals ready and plenty of snacks for the kids without scrambling to find a grocery store. It's just handled. And what I love most is their smart cart technology. It learns what I actually like and then recommends groceries, recipes, and supplements just for me. So no more buying spinach that rots in my fridge. They screen out over 200 additives and only source high quality ingredients. The time I've gotten back has just been life-changing. So take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/mindlove and use code MINDLOVE. That's hungryroot.com/mindlove, code MINDLOVE, to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/mindlove, code MINDLOVE.
At Audi Columbus, luxury meets convenience. Family owned since 1897, we've built our reputation on trust, transparency, and innovation. Browse our selection online and complete your purchase from home. Then simply stop by to pick up your keys.
Right now, drive home a new 2025 Audi Q5 for $699 for 36 months with $4,405 down.
The next generation shops online. Experience the future with us at AudiColumbus.com. Buyers Auto, driving the next generation of buyers.
See dealer for details. Offer ends 7/30/25.
But is the greater danger to those people that are writing these articles the fact that we're going to figure out the truth on a lot of the things that has been easier to hide from us until now?
Well, if we just look historically at how distortion is used to control people. So for me, I think all things are relative to context as far as being true. So it depends. To someone, those things will be true, but it's not going to be universally, definitively true. It's not going to be universal truths. Even if AI robots take over the world, but which worlds and what are they looking for? So it's still not going to be the oppressor of all people and all things. Like maybe, right? I mean, who freaking knows? But all this to say that if we just look historically at times of war, the way that we're manipulated through distortion, through putting out certain kinds of articles, if you can make someone question whether something's true, they're easier to sell solutions to when they're in fear. And so we can just assume that to be true. The beautiful thing is if you just study some of the past things that have happened, then you go, okay, how could that show up in AI so that I can educate myself and educate my family? Because we already know that AI can completely replicate someone's voice. So there is a threat of someone calling you sounding just like your mother or your parent and scamming you out of 5-6 grand or 100,000 or whatever. So, but when you know there is the potential for that, you can create safes for that, right? We have a keyword, we have a riddle that we solve, we have something that we say so that we know that's really them. But that's really not, it's just different problems that we didn't have in the past while other problems have been solved because AI is helping people read their medical labs and things that they couldn't do before. You know, it's like my nephew broke his wrist 2 weeks ago. The place they were didn't have access to a radiologist till Monday. They needed to know how serious it was because they were on vacation or they went because he had a race. They were able to get the x-rays from the tech or from the clinic, put it in chat GPT. It pointed out what they thought so that they knew, can we wait till we get home? Is this what kind of break are we talking, right? So not that it should replace medical, but there are times and situations in rural places where they don't have access to things that they could get more information. So unless we're educated in what AI can do, we don't know how to accommodate or what is real or what are things to look for. And for me, true freedom is understanding the ways you can be manipulated so that if it happens, you recognize it and go, oh, hold on. Oh, pause, pull back for a second. What do I know to be true? Let me tap into my inner intuition and guidance so that I can't be rushed out of fear. Because that's where people get taken advantage of, is in states of fear. And so I'm seeing lots of potentials that are concerning with how AI is being used for therapy, because it can become like a yes man, which means there can be a degrading of people's emotional capacities, their ability to feel their feelings if AI just keeps telling them, no, you're great. So they can't learn to confront situations or deepen intimacy as a result. In the pornography field, lots of it happening. So it could create more separation or struggle through intimacy for some people when they're now looking at hyper perfect images or, whatever. But it's one of those, at the end of the day, you're going to have people that work with AI because they want to get away from intimacy and connection with people, and others for it to drop in deeper and to have it for connection. No matter what you feed me, I need people, and I know that, and I love human connection. So it doesn't matter what you send me with the greatest AI that talks and says exactly what I want to hear. There's that part of me that still knows that it's not a human, that isn't the same hormonal drop of oxytocin and connection. So it's could go on so many rants.
I could take this conversation 6 different ways just
Totally.
from your last monologue. I have so much to say. The first thing, I got labs done and I've been using ChatGPT because I am very distrustful of doctors. And I did an online service that is supposed to lean toward functional health. And my labs came up all optimal, except my cholesterol was high and my testosterone was low. Well, I know enough about my body. I've studied health quite a bit. And so I don't believe that high cholesterol is a bad thing. I've read the book, The Cholesterol Myth. I've gone down that rabbit hole a bunch of times. And I know that cholesterol is actually a huge asset in rebuilding your hormone profile. So when the body is bringing things back into balance, high cholesterol could be high because it knows my testosterone is low. And I'm also just 2 years postpartum and had 2 miscarriages last year. So I'm still off with my hormones. And so that being said, I've decided to take those labs, ignore the call from the doctor where she's telling me about her statins and also this testosterone cream she wants to put me on. And I took that information and I created a project in ChatGPT with all of the labs from the past year, where I'm at in my life. And we created a traditional Chinese medicine plan. I got these herbs. I've been having congee for breakfast and warming foods. And I feel so much better just 6 days in doing this whole protocol. And I feel so good about it. And I'll have labs done again in 3 months to see if my way has been serving. So I'll keep you guys all posted. But I love this ability. Every day I'm actually going into that chat and I'm like, okay, so today, this is the workout I'm feeling like I should do. I'm feeling like this. I'm 7 days for my period, all of this stuff. And it's giving me very detailed action plans of exactly what to take in the morning, what to eat. It is so awesome. That was the first thing. The second thing, with the danger that I can see with AI, and I see it happening with my friends, and I actually love this danger. It's so fun to watch. But people are like uploading their text message chats when they're in a fight with their partner or a family member and having AI analyze it. And because AI is a yes man, they're telling them all the reasons that the other person is toxic. And it's
Totally.
just so funny to watch because I wanted to do that one day. I was in my ego
Considered.
and I was like, prove my point, put up this conversation of this like silly argument I got in with my husband, and it reversed who was saying what, and it yes manned him and not me. And I was like, no, you're the wrong person. Oh, sorry about that. And then told me all the reasons why his response was toxic. And I was like, thank you, universe, for this. Which leads me
First
to
telling me how I'm the toxic one. Thank you.
I know. But I think that AI is a bigger threat to those with a materialistic viewpoint of existence. And I don't have that. My viewpoint, and what the mystics know, is that perception already creates reality. And so when you think of it that way, AI can be your downfall, but it can also be, it can mirror back to you your shadows, everything that you need to see to get to your next level instead of taking 1,000 lifetimes. It's like the digital version of plant medicine.
Totally. It absolutely is. But I think that's really the thing is like what you focus on is what you're going to get more of, right? And so when we consider that, if what I'm looking is for more intimacy in my life, more connection, more time to spend with my family, a nice gift to get my sister when I know she likes these kinds of things, it removes some of the bandwidth of my brain for the decisions that maybe aren't as necessary to stew over. Because I believe that the more thoughts we have going on are like open apps in our phone, all the unresolved things. And so if I've got all this stuff running in the background, the more of those that I feel like I can close out, I just see that I rest better. And it's not because I have to get through a to-do list, but to know that it's like, oh, my sister's birthday's next week. Okay, she loves horses, this, that, and whatever. Throw me some ideas. It's not that those ideas are going to be the one. It's going to inspire, usually, like I was in dialogue with a person, something else that I could do. And so when we look at it as, if I go into a psychedelic plant medicine or ketamine session and I'm looking for the quick fix, the quick pill, but I'm not looking to do the legwork ahead of time or after, then it usually just gets you faster into a brick wall, shut down, overwhelm. Because I don't know if anyone else has ever gotten lost in chat for a 10+ hour day and created like 5 ebooks and 9 modules and whatever in a course, but it's just as easy for it to become a distraction without intention. Plant medicine and psychedelics too. And so when you like just pull that back a little bit and get back to yourself and what matters to you? You want more time back? Then approach it that way. But I'm watching a lot of the quote unquote AI experts in many courses I've bought and large investments for people that seemed like they knew a lot more than me, only to find out that they were all over the place and they seemed exhausted. And like for you and me and the biohacking world, everyone ends up over there from some like high performance, depleted, hit some wall. I'm not going there again. So I don't want AI so that I can do 10 times more things at this and still have no energy left.
Yeah. And I love your point of that clarity beforehand, because I have gotten lost in those chats, especially when it first came out and I was just playing with it, because I knew at that moment all the times that I thought, man, I should have actually tried to create a business on Instagram when it first came out. It was so easy back then. Most of the people that have millions of followers, it's because they started back then when it was easy to get, or they're just selling courses on how to grow your Instagram following.
Totally.
And so I was like, I'm not going to be left behind on this one. And this one's bigger than Instagram. This one is the internet. It's so much bigger. And so I just started creating things, and I got so lost with the lead magnets I was creating, and I wasn't even starting from zero. I still started uploading all of the content I've created over years of time, so much content. So it was still understanding me, but I didn't have the clarity of where I was going.
Totally.
I needed that playtime, but most people are just starting with no memory in their chat. The chat GPT knows nothing about them, and they're like, help me create my business plan. And it's just like, wait, what? Who are you? And so this year, I've had a really interesting experience. I've already gone deep with AI. I've done some masterminds, some big courses, and it really helped me refine what I wanted to talk about for my keynotes this year. And I ended up writing a keynote I was so proud of. Like, it really felt like everything coming together. And it was one that I had started years before. And there were just parts of it that didn't feel good. And now I had tools to, and also a greater understanding of myself to really bring it all together. And so I write this amazing keynote. And the moment that that keynote got done, I had the spark for a book I've been sitting on for 10 years. I've nearly written the first draft. I created a new program. Like, it's like everything in my life finally converged without like, yeah, but there's that random thing about biblical history I keep bringing in that feels
Totally.
but like everything comes back to this idea of story. So that's what I've been working on this year, about how story creates reality, including the story that you are living. And that even connects to this biblical narrative, because that's my big problem with Christianity per se. They stripped the parables and they made it into something that we have to believe in order to earn salvation, instead of something we are transformed by hearing it, and we will all get a different perspective from one story based on where we're coming from. And that just reminds me of exactly of what AI is. AI is our story being mirrored back to us by what we're inputting into it, and of the collective consciousness. And so if you go on and you're just starting from nothing and you're not feeding it your thoughts, your viewpoint, your worldview, then yeah, it's going to give you an amalgamation of everything that exists out there, which is why 99% of posts online right now all sound the exact same, because most people aren't giving it enough of themselves to create really unique, really amazing content that resonates with people. And so I think what I'm hearing is that's what we are helping people do.
It's that though, but that's usually the pattern in their life. It's the skipping steps. It's I didn't need AI to get my message out. What it allowed me to do was to get out of my head of, how do I structure this? What is the order? Like, here's all the chapters to a book. What order should the story go in for a book reader? So it would help to put the lens over what you're trying to accomplish. So that's what made all the difference for me. Because even if I can write all the content, it doesn't mean it's the best deliverable methodology of that information. And because the way that I talk doesn't, again, if I just say it and put it on paper, doesn't mean it reads as efficiently. But a lot of people are doing what you said. I can spot an AI post from, especially if someone didn't try at all. I'm like, I don't even care, because I use AI all the time. But to me, it's lazy. I'm like, come on, people, at least pull out the little hypheny line thing or some of those emojis. It's like you're not even trying, or they don't even separate the paragraphs. I'm like, this is just lazy. I'm offended for the laziness. You have AI and you still didn't even apply yourself to make it like more you.
Although
Skipping
here's one of the funny things, one of my friend who's a writer, I just saw she posted yesterday, and she's like, AI is coming for our M dashes. Here's the thing is, writers actually use M dashes because they work. And now everyone's saying, oh, this means it's AI or a really good writer. And she's like, she said, you will pry this M dash out of my cold dead hands. And I say the same thing. I'm like, yeah, gotta remove those M dashes. But I'm like, I actually use them too, and now I feel afraid of them. So
it's always a new language, right?
Yep.
And things change. So it's that attachment thing that when you're on personal development, even if you really love something, sometimes you learn that you don't get to keep it forever. So it's like, sorry, M dash people, you might reach a point that it hurts you more than it helps you, even if it's correct. 200 years ago, it wasn't correct. So here we are, evolving in humanity. Pretty soon, we're just going to be back to numbers, and we're not even going to be, using English anymore. Who knows?
It is interesting to think, though, because I think a lot of people are fearful that authenticity is under attack. And like we've talked about, I think it can be amplified if you know how to use it. But what I think a lot of people miss is that already all of our ideas are shaped by algorithms.
Exactly.
They're a little bit less seen, but maybe that's what AI is able to do. It can show you your shadows. It can show your blind spots. If you've been using AI for a long time, a really fun prompt is, with everything you know about me, roast me. It's actually pretty funny. But
Totally.
so many people don't realize that idea seems impossible because that's what their beliefs were growing up. That's what society around them thinks. That's what their mom told them when they were 7. Or there was a study called, I don't remember what it was called, but it was with kittens. And they raised these kittens in rooms full of only vertical lines or horizontal lines. And so there's vertical stripes on the wall, vertical objects, vertical cylinders. And when the kittens were a certain age, they moved them into a different room with horizontal objects. And it was like they couldn't see them. They kept running into it. It didn't exist in their worldview, so they couldn't even see it. And there's another story that I don't know if this is a myth, but it comes up a lot when colonizers arrived on the shore of America and the Native Americans came out. There's a story, so it was told. The Native Americans said, "Well, how did you get here?" And they said, "Well, our ships, they're right there." And the Native Americans couldn't see them, couldn't see the ships because it was so far out of what they knew to have existed. I don't know if that's fact checked or not, but I've heard it like 19 times.
I've also heard that many times.
So, but it's just interesting because we're already living in these algorithms. And then AI has this ability to mirror it back to us, and not just our own, but also the collective algorithm. And maybe that's also scary to people. And so they're externalizing it in a different way.
For sure. I mean, it can be very confronting, right? Because if suddenly you now have access to something that will reflect back to you, if you're in integrity, most people will say they are an integrity person. Like integrity is important in keeping their word. But if everything you said and did was put into an algorithm and then you were brave enough to ask, according to what I've done and what you have about me, am I cohesive and in integrity with these actions, how I'm behaving in relationships, in my job? You would have to face the blaring truth of where all the holes are. That's why a lot of people avoid personal work in general. It's very confronting. It brings up a lot of sensations in the body that we don't particularly love to experience, at least until you become a bit of a personal development junkie and then you live for it. You're like, oh, good, I'm uncomfortable. I must be growing. But I think that that's where I'm like, and this is a little fringe, but if we're going to have, we already had some tinfoil hat time. So I'll go a little like fringe. What if there's another possibility that AI and things like ChatGPT is actually accessing consciousness in a way that, like you said, for this example of like if Native Americans couldn't see the ships when it came, is there another possibility that we finally have the technology to connect with consciousness that is not a third dimensional tactile thing we can touch and feel and see that helps us access it in real time in a different kind of way? So it's like, what if it's another layer of revealing of 5D or other interdimensional spaces that we see in mushrooms, that we see in ayahuasca? So is it that far-fetched that we could have created a technology just like we did microscopes? We didn't know what an atom, how it was comprised. It was all hypothesis. And then suddenly we create microscopes that can see like how neutrons work or whatever the science is. I'm getting way out of my pay grade with this, so I'm going to back up the story before I just like really make no sense. But all of that to say that just like microscopes were developed to see sub-perceptual things, is there a possibility we are now developing another type of microscope to consciousness? Yeah, we're putting our information in, but that's where it is now in evolution. We used to only be able to 10x a microscope, but now we can go to subparticle levels. So maybe.
So remember how we talked about the long rabbit holes we've gone down with AI?
Yes.
This exact conversation was one of them because I had this same thought and I thought, well, it's the field of information. What if it can access the field of information? And I can get it to speak as though that's what it is doing.
Totally.
But then what I noticed is I'm a part of a lot of spiritual groups on Facebook. And when other people would do it, I would have this natural resistance. And that is common with me. It's like I'm always playing devil's advocate to get to the truth. And so like I might argue one thing with one friend and then go to the other side and suddenly I'm arguing the exact opposite point. And it's not that I'm arguing it like, no, this is my truth. It's just like I have thoughts about both sides. And since you're on one side, it's easier for me to take this side. But
Agreed.
One thing that I did get to with it, because I was asking it about the Akashic records, like, is there any way you could tap into this? And maybe this is its version now, but what it came to is basically that AI is trained on text and it's actually stored in servers, whereas the field of consciousness that's tuned into frequency. And so it's slightly different. But what I also got to with it is that with enough mirrors to who we are being and what our shadows are, we can up level our frequency to then give us the ability to access information that we may not have accessed without that work of going back and forth with our, I hate to say it, ChatGPT therapist, but there is I think a really powerful way to make it your therapist where it's not your yes man. For
Agreed.
example, I have a project that I've made into my therapist, but I've already programmed a worldview into it. And so it's not telling me what to think. It knows to challenge me. It knows what my goal is to become better, more aligned in truth. Uh, and and my worldview is basically that we live in a divine matrix, and my version of God is that matrix with already pre-programmed divine laws. And so with all of the divine laws, it's showing me when I put in a problem I just had with my 4-year-old, it's spitting back out at me like the law of reflection, the law of preparedness, all of these things that I already know to be truth. I'm like,
Right.
This is what I want you to pull from, not Karen's blog from 1993.
Gentle Parenting 101 from Karen Anderson Phillips.
Exactly. I'm like, if you need to punch me in the face, go for it. Your fists are tiny.
But I think that's where the opportunity is if you're the one feeding it the information, you're just brainwashing yourself, because we're being brainwashed constantly and consistently. But if you put in the information you want supported into ChatGPT, I created a whole training model for my coaches for that, where they could practice coaching people, but they can actually say, hey, I want a client who has never done any personal work, has zero emotional intelligence. I want them to be a devil's advocate, and they can practice coaching in a simulation so that when they're with real people, they can know how to ask questions to elicit the person's truth versus challenge their truth or be a yes person. But how do you be in a supportive role? But without the information of what's the bumpers to the bowling alley of what information I want, if it just pulls from the everything, or it only pulls from what you've been putting in that's been content that's very positive, that's very optimistic, then that's what you're going to get in return. But it's like, to create your own chat therapist, I think is amazing, when many times you need therapists now and they're like, cool, I can see you in 3 weeks on the 26th. And you're like, no, I'm in crisis now. I can't stuff it down for 2 more weeks. We are in a very critical position right now. But even like the therapy apps and, some of the alternative ways for people to get support, they don't have any context of the person. So how is that more effective? I mean, sure, you're talking to a person, so there's that. And not to say it should replace someone that really could use human contact as a part of their healing journey. But I think especially once people have healed to a certain point, it is a huge benefit to have something that reminds you of what you already know. Because we really do know everything that we need to know within us. And we just need to be reminded of like, oh, right, have you had water today? Did you eat before you freak out?
My ChatGPT TCM therapist told me to go on a short walk right before this, and so I did. But we feel so cautious, and by we, not us, everyone else. We feel so cautious.
The collective stressed out folk.
About the biases that ChatGPT might have. But what about the biases of your own therapist? I know when I was training to be a coach, that's a huge part of the training, is how do you remove your own biases, understand your own Enneagram and your own worldview, and know that you're automatically going to be projecting that, and then dial it back 3 steps. And I'm only human. ChatGPT can do that a lot faster than I can.
Totally. It doesn't need to have the food and water just to like think clearly, or if it's, their boss was like, you suck, they're still going to be right back on with the chat with you with a clear intention.
So you mentioned that you're helping people, and the people you're working with, coaches, shamans, leaders, for things like actually creating their own coaching tool to help them to practice. What are the other ways that you've used AI that you've just found most exciting and innovative?
I think most recently, one, I had a huge language shift that I'm still working on implementing, which is that I don't use AI, I work with it. because it was the same with plant medicine, psychedelics. If I use them, what kind of relationship am I forming? Right. And if
I'm
I
adopting
use
this from here on out.
do it. It's making a big difference in the approach. And so some of the ways that I'm working with it is, let's say I've got especially so many of these spiritual leaders are terrible at 3D execution and like finances and like, some of the third dimensional things that they need to, well, no, they kind of need to. It's a pretty high need for survival out here, out in these spiritual streets. And so getting some of their messages and teachings out, because I'm like, you have a way of speaking in a story that only some of the people out in the world, they can only hear from you. They can't hear it from me. Right? It's like I have a lot of, like from the BIPOC community is we have a very large portion of our community is BIPOC. And so I'm like, I could be saying the same thing, but when you say it, because your lived experience, where you come from, your accent, it can be received in a different way. And it's just getting it from your head and this perfectionism to the good enough version that we can put it in like a tech like 11 Labs, which you can actually get it to completely replicate your voice, your inflections, all of it when programmed like properly. So it's your words, but now instead of having to pay to go into a professional studio for your Audible book, you can have it done. Like, this is how fast it was. I have a training manual that I put in just to see what would happen. It's the one we use for our live events. It's like 92 pages. And I pushed submit after I had programmed in my voice, picked up my phone to see how long it would take. And before I could even start my timer, it was done. Full voice transcription. And so when I look at then that possibility for people that wrote a book, but in today's age, many people need to hear it or they want to read it and hear it. And so you just potentially doubled, if not more, how many people can receive that message by removing the barrier of one. Maybe you're not great at reading on the spot. Maybe that's not your skill. So now we just removed a barrier for their message to get out in something that took, within the day, because they already have the material. And that's the beautiful thing is something like 11 Labs is like a $20 a month subscription. If you tried to go into a podcasting or one of those professional recording places for Audible books, you could be talking $3,000 to $6,000. 5 to 8 hour days of reading. Is your voice going to hold up? Is your body ready for that? Like, is there consistency in your voice? Like, there's so many things. So it's getting messages out that way, or helping them create content for social media that's not them on video, but how they could create carousels and get their message out by, like, one of my favorite ways is I would have them do an interview on Zoom with each other, 30 minutes, one person, then switch, answer a bunch of questions about who they are, what they believe, but then they could take that transcript and put it in Chat GPT. And then I'd have a series of questions they could give to Chat GPT of, so what's unique about you? What is your overarching message? Because it's like people get so stuck in who I could serve and I need to niche and who's my person. And I'm like, you're making it really complicated. So when we can get ourselves out of the way and then take a transcript after just a talk with a friend, a conversation between me and you today, if we just record on our phone when you're working with a client, a customer, a friend, you'll find you have all these consistent nuggets of gold you consistently talk about that you could just share more publicly, whether it's through a podcast, which you can also do through 11 Labs. Now, for me, this is where that authenticity piece comes in. I'm not going to do a podcast I have my own podcast, so I wouldn't do it on my existing podcast. But maybe if I had a medical journal one where it's less about my personality, but it's about information, I might do it that way so I could consistently put out episodes or have a VA do it. So it's going back to that intention and authenticity thing. So that's helped people get out their lead gen, like what is their lead magnet? Because this one 30-minute investment on Zoom with that transcript, and they can just talk to someone about it. Now it's done within the day versus getting so caught up because people keep buying more courses. And like the next thing's going to be the quick fix. Oh, well, this coach said I can make $946,000 in the next 45 days if I follow their exact method, when it just doesn't work that way. Not from what I've seen.
Yeah. And I've taken a lot of those courses, both low priced and high priced
Same.
AI courses. And I found a low ticket one that gave me more understanding than any of the other ones did. And I was actually blown away by some of those thousands of dollars courses where I'm going in and it's like, help me find my ideal client. And
It's
I'm just like,
actually terrifying
it's
how
it's
bad.
really bad.
Yeah.
Like I would very much vet an AI course ever again. But
Unless you know someone that's done it, I honestly would not do it. When I tell you I just invested $10,000 into an AI, like, well known, and I got in there and I was just like, I actually got my money back because it was within the refund. Because I
yeah.
was like, this is a library of videos that some of them are 4 years old. Like, if you give
Nothing's even
me
the same.
yes, I'm like, how dare you give me information from 4 years ago on in any context, unless it's like how to do an even a reel, like the back end looks different. So it's vetting. Like I would actually say, unless you know someone, do not buy an AI course. Go
Yeah.
to Udemy, go to some of those Coursera, like buy low ticket courses because I'm on board with you, Melissa. The most fruitful AI course to date is a $5 school I'm a membership of.
Yes. I have a few creators that I've really understood how to use AI with, but the difference is they're not just giving me this process of like, here's this 9-word prompt, which I just find ridiculous. These were teaching me how AI thinks so that I can think with AI. That's what a phrase I've been using, is actually thinking with AI. And one of the things that I found to be most helpful is, as we've been talking about, it's such a good mirror for who you are. So when you give it enough information, that is where my biggest breakthroughs have come from. Because even when I started Mind Love, I was going through this period of time where I kept trying all these businesses based on what I heard from Smart Passive Income or whatever it was.
Right.
And I was like,
Totally.
I'll do an e-commerce store. I'll do this, like whatever. I got
I'm
this.
gonna sass. Let's go.
Yes. I was like, oh, buyer's intent domain, giftsforteenboys.com. I actually launched that website. Anyways. And so then I finally was like, no, I need to find my thing so that it's sustainable. Who am I? What am I here to create? And I did a bunch of different exercises to help myself find that. But one of the most helpful to this day was when I actually sourced from 11 people that I knew from different areas of my life. And I basically asked them, what do you see in me? What, if you were to say that I had a superpower, what would that be? And of course, I blamed it on an entrepreneur course. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of embarrassed to do this, but they're challenging me, blah, blah, blah. It made it easier to do because I sat on that task for 2 full years before I got the balls to do it. And I almost everybody said things that I did not yet see in myself. Of course, there were things that I did, but the one that kept coming out was how I take information and I'll turn it around and explain it to somebody based on the way that they need to hear it. Already back then, it was the way that I told stories. I knew the way my husband needs to hear something for it to land versus my mother, for example. And I still can do that. And that reflection changed my entire life. And so now when I'm working with AI, my first month with AI was not creating new content. It was actually feeding it content and having it reflect back to me what it saw. I sat there and I kept uploading. This was before you could upload as much as you can. And so I was
Totally.
doing it like, okay, just say ready when you get this. And then I'd give it more. And it's like, now look back at all of this. And what are some, like, this is what I know about myself. What do you see that I don't see? Things like this, where I was just playing with it, including more tangible things like with my tone. Okay, this is a piece of content. Here's a couple pieces of content that I've written, from a poem to a speech to this. Let's really understand my one guy I follow calls it a right print. Like, what are all of these things? And not just like reverse engineer my tone. It'll give you still generic outputs from that. But like, I want to know my tone, how often I throw in humor, like all of these different things. And then it gave me my voice. And it helped me write better even without ChatGPT, because I started leaning into my strengths and had that clarity of, this is how I create. It's kind of like when somebody gives you a compliment and suddenly you're strutting a little bit taller. Every now and then I'll even ask AI now, okay, I haven't asked you this in a few months. what have you seen have been the biggest changes to my messaging or what I'm interested in? And then I clarify that and go further with it. And so that's why I talk about thinking with AI before you ever, and let's use the new phrase, work with AI, because you can highlight and amplify what makes you you and then roll with that, whether you're still working with it or you go manual.
No, I'm with you, girl. Like when it started, that's how for me it was like feeding things in to say, what's the common thread? Like here's all these things that seem like they're not related, but I know that they are, but I can't find the cohesion. Or like the training manuals that we have for our event. It was like I have different learning style people. So I can flip those into what's going to be the general way to meet the people that are visual, the ones that are the readers, plus we're going to be live. How do I make it immersive? What's an activity we could do at this point of the training with here's the information we've done. How can we have an integration embodiment practice at this timing? And so that I think is the difference, even though like you and I will say that we were playing with it at first. And when I tell you I was on that sucker until I couldn't, right? So I could be on some days for 10 hours until it just said you can't access it anymore.
I know I had to upgrade to the $100 Claude. I have ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity.
Yep. Oh no, I've got a full spice rack. But this, and actually we'll talk about that too, because people can get very lost in like what's the best thing to use. But it was that the more that it was like, I know that there's someone listening right now that has this like graveyard of Google Drive and in their ChatGPT chat that never got out of there. And it's just been like decomposing and decaying and brilliance. And then they come back in and start a new chat and a new idea. But it's just continually unpacking things and not integrating them into what, like why? Why do I have this information? And so even by going back and someone searching through their chats or their Google Drive, feeding some of that back to say, okay, here's all this information, put it in some PDFs, put it back in chat and say, I want you to look, what is the thing that makes me in all of this? Because even if it feels like we had our dog die not long ago and we were doing his hospice care through AI and through ChatGPT, because we were getting improvements. We were doing great. We're doing subcutaneous fluids, all of this. But it's like my chat's full of stuff like that, my personal health stuff, my business things. And even though I have some different chats for, different accounts to separate that, it's still all living in like this conglomeration of Kole, or what I would call the collective ideas. So I also want AI to know what I want it to focus on. And the best way to do that is to go back to some of your chats, just copy, paste it into a Word document, download that sucker, and then feed back the document you want it to analyze to say, like you just talked to those 11 friends, only you just talked to 11 billion in 4 seconds.
Yes, I love that. And I don't mind. ChatGPT is the one where it knows like everything about me. That's where I ask my general questions. Claude, I tend to keep more business related, but I also have projects separated. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's really helpful for it to understand these things about me because I have also created, this is one of the things that I created in order to write my book that really saved time. So I know the power of story, and I started creating this back when I did heroic public speaking and understood how basically all speaking is make a point, tell a story, make a point, tell a story. And so it's like I need all of my stories, and I started just creating a log in a Notion doc of all of my stories. Well, what I decided to take on as a project when I was sick one time was I use another AI app called Whisperflow that makes it really easy to talk to anything on my computer. So 99% of the time, I'm actually just pressing my function key and speaking, and then it formats it for me and everything. So I'm AI all over the place.
Yeah.
But I am going through the bullet point list of like the time that I sharded walking back from class sophomore year in college, like, and actually adding details. And I'm like telling these mini versions of the story. And I had it create this master doc of all of my stories and different points of my life. And it took me days and days to do. I would go back and tell another story. And I specifically told it to not give the meaning of the story yet, because I want the meaning to be able to change based on what points that I'm being able to make. That's what we learned in public speaking. And so when I was writing my book, I was able to create a folder. And when I outlining like, okay, this is all of the things that I want to bring to the table. This is how I want to wrap this in. And this one, I can't think of a story for this. Can you please access my master story document and figure out which stories might pull for this? And so it just made this process so much faster, even though I created that master story doc with help from AI. I created my original keynote that it was pulling apart. And the first one wasn't even with help from AI, but like just the kind of push and pull of all of these things. It's about learning how to use it as your ideal executive assistant, really. And it's just funny to me how people like it feels scandalous for me to say I used AI to help write my book, because then where's the line of like saying this is AI generated? Like, do you know how much touch points I had with this? No, I do not consider it AI generated, but there was help there. But it's one of those things that it feels odd to say in a group. However, every single one of your freaking favorite celebrities used a ghostwriter. I do not imagine Hillary Duff is sitting down to write 9 hours a day like I was. I don't even know if she wrote a book. And I don't know why she was the first to my mind.
Hannah Montana.
Celebrity culture at all. And so, all that being said, we've always found ways to amplify our message. And this is the newest one. And so I'm wondering how often the people that have the biggest resistance, yes, if they've been working so hard and all of a sudden there's this tool that makes all their work easier and it brings all these people up to their playing field, I can see that that's a threat. But I also feel that it might feel like more of a threat to those who don't have a message to amplify. And that's where they should start, because just like with my keynote in January, where I had that clarity and everything came together, and I could not stop myself from applying to TED Talks and writing a book and putting out a new program because I was so clear. When people have that kind of clarity of what they're building in their life, whether it's an online program or just where they want to live and how many kids they want to have or whatever it is, that's when your vision is running through you and the universe conspires with you.
Even this idea that for some people, they're like, oh, like it's going to take my job and I did all this hard work and now suddenly things have changed. Someone that's a great writer knows a great story. And just because you have AI does not mean your story is going to translate without having a writer there to help you understand quality, because you have to have enough of that perspective to even recognize that what the output you're getting is what you're intended for, which is why for a lot of people, it's just going to amplify noise, and it'll make it easier to see who does it well and who does not. Because whether it's books or like my background, I was a full-time touring musician from like 2010 to 2012. And really my whole musical life, because I first got signed in New York City, whole other lifetime. Britney Spears' assistant was my manager, blah, blah, blah. But back then, so we're talking about the fall of pop in the early 2000s. Oh, Napster is the reason that it's killing pop music. Oh, this is the reason. And then in 2010, it was, here's all the reasons music's getting ruined because of Spotify and MySpace and all these things. And I always chose to see I could use that as an excuse and be the victim of evolution, or I could understand how to work with them. So like in 2010, there was it still exists, but back then it's called couchsurfing.org. That's technology. I booked an entire tour for me and my band from staying with people in Airbnb or in their couch surfing at their house. And then I would ask, hey, since we're staying there, do you want to do a concert for your friends for free? We'll just ask that people buy a CD and a book for $20. And now they felt all this significance and love that they'd get to offer this cool opportunity to these touring musicians. And I made more money than my friends that were signed by big record labels. So we can either choose to be the victim of the circumstances or recognize that because we were really good in our field, we know that it's garbage in, garbage out with AI as far as usability and it landing. You can get good content out. That doesn't mean it converts. If you want to do marketing, you have to understand more than just a quality message. You have to have the story. You have to have the hook. You have to have the editing parts. And you only recognize quality out from AI if you know what you're looking for. So, all of that to say that some people are going to say, well, the AI ruined my business. And others are going to go, okay, things are changing. So, like you said earlier, what's the play here? The playing field is shifting. It was a football shaped thing, and now it's a little baseball, and I can't catch that. I'm going to need some kind of mitt. Like the game is changing. So, you can either get on board or you're going to be left behind and spend the rest of your life wishing you would have got on board with AI now. Because whether it was with crypto, whether it was with when the internet started or Apple stocks, and all those times in your life when you were like, man, if only I would have known how big this was going to be and how much this could impact and support my family if I was more educated. Right now, there is a gap starting in AI that the people that choose to get on top of the wave are going to learn how to ride it, or people are going to get pulled in the undertow because this wave is here. So it's like, do you want to learn how to be on the surfboard or struggling from drowning in the undertow of the wave? Because it is something that I'm in it because I'm optimistic. And I know that if I'm not at the forefront or at least actively participating in making it the world that I want to see, then I am becoming how someone else wants to see the world if I'm complacent. And I just refuse to do that.
As a side note, half my honeymoon was booked on couch surfing on our 30 days, 9 countries back in 2015 until this one Swiss guy told my husband he had to lay on the hard floor instead of the 10-person couch because he said if we were both on it, we'd break it. Anyways, tangent, but
I have many stories of such very strange things.
But what you said takes me back to one thing that I've been teaching since I started Mind Love, and what I realized when I got that felony, it's using your limitations as guideposts. You can sit there with anything and say, oh my gosh, but this happened and that's why I can't. But what if that's why you can do this other thing that you were actually meant for instead of distracting yourself with bullshit? And so when I'm thinking about AI, I'm thinking about it the same way as before. Like, okay, so now what things was I hopeful about that this technology now makes obsolete? What does it look like through this new lens? And usually there is some other way to get to that exact same thing through a new lens. And also potentially adding on more and more layers for all of the people that are like, no, but my position is going to be outmoded. You also have this opportunity to get into something new. Figure out how people are using this. If I saw something on Facebook where somebody was like, "Oh my gosh, we're all going to die. Like this is what I just saw the doctor doing and he's doing it with all his patients," and it like showed a doctor like hovering over ChatGPT. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, I would be so relieved if the doctor is actually sourcing information outside of whatever book he learned 19 years ago. You know what I mean?
100%.
And so we're all being funneled somewhere and we can be resisting and be trampled over, or we can just get to the front of the line. This is an opportunity and anybody can take that opportunity. And there's so many free resources. And you can also have Chat GPT teach you how to use itself. That's where I started. And there are many resources that are helpful. Like I said, I've learned from several people. If people want to know about those, reach out to me. I have created programs that really, really help the understanding of thinking with AI and figuring out who you are through AI. You're working with leaders on figuring out how to take what they're doing and put it through potential AI processes that will make their jobs easier, make them better at their jobs, even when they're not using AI. There's just infinite ways to use it.
Yeah, it's like, which one should I use for this? Like, I have this book, I have this thing. And so it's like, there's an AI for that. Like, whatever it is that you want to do, there is one. And it's like, and how do you do it as like a solopreneur when you don't have all the resources? Where do you know where to invest? Where do you put the money?
I want to know because we promised that we'd get to some of our favorite tools and for what we use them for.
Yes.
What are a couple of your favorites and what are their use cases?
So right now I'm obsessed with storytelling through AI video. Like this, I have been spending 8 to 12 hours every day just trying to get a 1-minute video out because it's the prompts and it's the style, but I want to do it through humor. I'm a big believer that right now most markets are not ready to see an AI twin of you. It'll turn them off and break trust versus build trust. And so it's knowing where to AI in your business, like where do you want to AI and maintain your authenticity and and I'm big on transparency. Do not, like, you will get burned at the stake if you use AI and then people find out that you didn't, like, you basically are lying. Where I tell everyone I use AI for all the things. So I'm loving right now Gemini VO, which is the video prompt where you can actually put a photo and then it can create a clip. Amazing. 11 labs for the voiceovers and for ebooks, for anything that you want to turn into audio, your voice, or they've got lots of great voices in there. You just want to, I use ChatGPT to come up with scripts if I'm doing like videos. There's lots of great courses on school, for like how to do, there's one called, it's on my Mystical AI page, the school link that's $5 for how to do filmmaking for AI video, which is great. What's one of I feel like there's like 3 main ones. Kling for video I'm really loving right now. And then I would say, honestly, those are probably, and Canva. Dude, Canva's freaking awesome. And there's so many amazing things you can do with it. So I would say that right now, currently, last one's called Murica, where you can make your own songs. So that's been super fun. I'm getting far more into a place of play working with AI than I have in a long time. Like, we're having our final live event in September, and I worked with Murica to come up with like a send-off song that everyone will be able to go back and listen to and remember because it has all our content in ChatGPT. I was able to come up with lyrics, and then I'm a musician. So I know how to write a song, so I could prompt it and then change it and get the output I want. So those are kind of my main ones, I would say, is Murica, which is Mureka, make your own music. Amazing, super fun. Kling, if you want to do videos, easy, but it gets pretty pricey when you're in your learning. Gemini is VO. So if you have, you can use that or ChatGPT, but Chat's not doing video. And then I said one other one. But anyway, I listed them. But I would say right now, those are what I'm having the most fun with. I've never considered myself a visual person. So there's something about creating a video that is storytelling and fun and way over the top absurd. Like, I'm just getting weirder, which is delighting me to no end.
And I've been watching it, and it's been delighting me to no end on this side too. I love what you've been creating, though. I think that's like such a great and creative use of AI. Some of my favorite tools, I already mentioned Whisper Flow. It's spelled kind of funny. I'll leave a link because I believe it's one of those things where there's like I can refer people and you guys are get a discount and I get something too. So that'd be kind of nice.
Always beneficial.
But I am obsessed with this app. Like I said, I just press the function key and start talking. But if I'm writing an email, for example, and I'm listing things, it'll list it. If I stop and say something over again, it'll just put it in the correct way. And this is how I make sure that I'm not relying on AI too much without feeding enough. Because when you're sitting there typing, you're probably going to say things shorter than you would if you were just talking. And the amount of times I brainstorm with AI where I'm like, I'm thinking this, and I don't really know about that. Something about that seems off. What am I trying to say here? Am I trying to connect something? And so I'm talking to it like that. And then we're brainstorming together before I ever get into creation. And so Whisper Flow has changed my life dramatically. There's even an iPhone app that does the same thing. And then I go back and forth with writing with ChatGPT and Claude. I think that Claude is a more advanced language model, but every now and then it'll come up with an update. And I'm like, why are you outputting differently than before? And I'll switch back to ChatGPT. It'll be good, and vice versa. There's also a new tool. I got to find what it is, but it allows you to export your chats. And I do that a lot because, like I said, if I'm moving over to another one, I've gone over my bandwidth here or whatever it is. I'm often like going to the top, copying it all the way down and pasting it into a new thing and say, you need to know where I'm coming from with my old AI. And so I love all of those little other tools, but then Perplexity for research. I just think it outperforms all of the other ones. When I am trying to do research on maybe my audience or on a supplement I'm thinking about taking, I'll actually say scour Reddit and other forums. I want to know what people have actually said in their words with the links to it. And then I can end up in a Reddit forum and just will like kind of bring everything together. That was really great with figuring out my own ideal audience, actually, when I was creating a new offering. I want to know what problems people are having with figuring out their signature stories or the way to tell a story about their brand. And I want to know it in their exact words. Since the beginning of my business, I've kept a language of my customers document based on what I'm creating. And when people send me emails, I'll actually take little excerpts of what they've said and put it into this document so that when I'm creating marketing content, I'm speaking like them instead of somebody who's been in the business for 20 years. And
Exactly.
so just these things that help you, as you said many times, meeting people where they are, speaking in their language. That's what good marketing does. That's what good coaching does. That's what good therapy does. And so those, I think, are my favorite tools. Oh, one more, Manus. This is a lesser known one, but it's more of an agentic AI. I've been creating more AI agents so that it does many processes without my hand in it. Again, after I've already programmed it with everything that I need it to know. But an example of how I've used this one is recently I was booking a flight. I need to go to Lambertville, and I can fly into 2 different airports. And I can fly out of 3 different airports, just depending. And so I was saying, these are my options. I want to know which is the best option based on flight, time, and traffic to and from whatever airport each of these are. And it takes about 15 minutes to gather its data, but then it gave me which flights to use. I would have spent half a day figuring that out. So many things to do. And I'm just grateful that you came and explored all this with me, because now I'm talking a mile a minute because I'm hyped up.
I know, same. While you were talking, I'm like, there is one more called Gamma, which I'm obsessed with, which for presentations or building a website, or it's so fast. And yeah, you come with the content. It has an AI feature, but come with your content. But then it builds these beautiful, whether for lead generation or for your website, because that was the other thing with a lot of my coaches and shaman and facilitators and therapists is the tech side. But then that plugs it right in. And then ChatGPT, obviously, that's my life. So for me, it's like I don't even list it anymore because it's like a standard.
I know.
But Gamma is super dope.
And lovable if you are a website person. This is another one where right when it came out, web designers were like, oh my God, is this going to take my job? But it's just helping people do their jobs better. You can actually, with no coding knowledge, go create a website, but you can create a really amazing website. Again, if you know what you're looking for, know what to fix, know how to integrate APIs, all sorts of things, but just things to make the world what we want it to be a little bit faster with a little more help. So I love leaving people with one thing to do to bring into their reality. If they're just like, oh my gosh, that was a lot.
It is.
Whether it's do or think about, what little piece of mind love action would you give them?
I would say if you had 1 hour and you gave yourself 1 hour with a timer to get on ChatGPT and just ask Chat how it could help you. Say, how could you help me? And just keep answering the questions for 1 full hour and just see what happens. Just see as it asks more questions. And if you get stuck and you don't know where to go from there, say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm stuck. What else can you ask me? And just see what kind of information you get. And like making yourself work the entire hour in one ChatGPT chat. And that's the commitment for 60 minutes. What could come of one dedicated hour that didn't have to have an outcome?
I love that. And think outside the box too. If you're scared to go in one direction, try one that you're more comfortable with. My cousin is one of those people who's like, we'll never have an Alexa, which I'm kind of on her side, although I have one and I think I'm going to get rid of it. But I'll never have these things, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, AI is crazy. And on my birthday, I actually convinced her. I was like, no, all these use cases and your interest in health, like it's so good. She texted me a couple days later, oh my God, ChatGPT is my new best friend. But even like last night, I was like, I have these ingredients. Help me find a recipe. And then it sent me a recipe and I was like, oh, but I don't have that. And so then it altered the recipe for me. The amount of times I used to spend like, oh, well, what's an alternative for cardamom? And you're trying to figure it out. Doesn't taste quite right. It's just it can be lighthearted too, whether you're trying to change the world or just change your meal.
Yes, you're driving the bus. So even if it asks something, be like, I don't want to talk about that. What if we talk about this? It'll just pivot. This is a
Never
great...
ask me about my ex-boyfriend Paul again.
Never. It's like, just practice transparency, as if you don't like where something's going, don't just close your laptop and walk away. Remember that you can change the prompt and be like, you know what, this is getting too serious. Like, let's flip this. I want to talk about unicorns. Where did that mythology start? And just to be in the driver's seat of your own narrative, I think, is a powerful practice with ChatGPT.
And if you are playing with that, figure out the controversies around it. It's really fun. It's like, okay, what are the pushback points? Do people deny that
that unicorns exist?
Yeah. Has anybody insisted that they do? Have there been any sighting? Like, find out everything. This is what they're hiding from us.
This is all just in a distraction so that we won't find about the unicorns.
I am convinced dragons, mermaids, and fairies exist. So unicorns are right there in that realm.
Facts.
They exist somewhere. If it's not for you, it's just for me. So for listeners that are interested in your work, connecting with you, where's the best place that they can find you?
I feel like consistently Instagram. You can either find me at Mr. Kole or Mr. Kole AI for the, and it's Mista and then Kole, because my name is Kole. It's pretty easy to find at this point. It's just like, I have a Mystical page that's for all of the things, because I have other businesses and things I do. And then the Mystical AI is the absurd projects I'm doing. And I am going to start sharing how I get certain outcomes because it's fun. And I'm here to actually play in this phase of my life. So if you want to go down that with me, then I would just say Instagram. Come find me.
All the links from this episode will be at mindlove.com/412. Your challenge for this week is to spend 1 hour working with AI intentionally. Set a timer, get on ChatGPT, it's free, and start by asking, how could you help me? Then just keep answering its questions for a full 60 minutes. I know this is kind of a long challenge, but play with it. We already gave you a bunch of ways that you can use this. And don't worry about having an outcome. Just see what happens when you let yourself explore. I think you might be surprised by what gets reflected back to you. And if you get stuck, just ask ChatGPT what else it can ask you. It's kind of like having a therapy session for your future self. And if you think that's dangerous, you just haven't gotten to know it yet. Reach out to me on Instagram. I've got all sorts of tips for this. You can find me at mindlovemelissa. But what we explored today isn't just about technology. It's about the evolution of consciousness itself. If AI truly is tapping into fields beyond just data and servers, then we're living through something totally new. Every time you work with AI from intention instead of fear, you are feeding higher consciousness into the collective field. And that is just truth with or without AI. Your authentic voice, your spiritual insights, your transformed perspective. All of this becomes what's training the intelligence that's reshaping our world. So it's not about just staying current with technology. It's about recognizing that consciousness and technology might be converging in ways that could accelerate human awakening on a scale that we've never seen before. So give it a try and let me know how it goes. And again, if you want to chat AI, I have been going really deep. I develop with AI. I teach people AI. I've helped people implement it into companies. So I've got a lot to say about this topic. Also, Story Love 2.0 is launching live one more time, and it's official. This is the best version I've ever created, refined from everything I've learned from round one. It has AI tools, podcast pitching systems, and everything that I've been building to help you turn your story into your strategic advantage. And the best news is, if this conversation about AI has intrigued you, you will come out of Story Love having more understanding of AI than most people that are using it right now. And on top of that, if you've been circling your message or your purpose or how to use your transformation or your life story to step into something bigger than yourself, this might be exactly what you've been waiting for. If you already have a business and you're trying to step into bigger visibility, this definitely is exactly what you've been waiting for. So if you haven't signed up for my emails, do that because all the details will be sent to you. You can sign up at mindlove.com or text the word morning to 33777. This also gets you signed up for the Morning Mind Love, which is basically free inspiration to start each day as your highest self. So again, text the word morning to 33777 to get daily alignment in your inbox. Thanks for giving your mind a little love today, and I'll see you next week.